The grand hall of the sprawling mansion in Ikoyi, Lagos, fell into a deathly hush, not from a thunderclap or a shattering vase, but from an act so bold it seemed ripped from the pages of an ancient Igbo folktale where the underdog defies the mighty. Under the glittering crystal chandelier that dangled like stars captured from the African night sky, Ebele Okonkwo, the glamorous fiancée of the billionaire tycoon, raised her manicured hand high, her diamond rings flashing like venomous fangs ready to strike. She was poised to deliver another stinging slap to a trembling maid, her face twisted in fury over a spilled cup of herbal tea that had stained her imported silk gown. The staff, cooks from the bustling kitchen, still clutching ladles slick with palm oil, gardeners with soil etched into the lines of their calloused hands, drivers in starched uniforms wiping sweat from their brows, froze like statues carved from ancient ebony wood. They knew Ebele's temper all too well. It was a raging storm that left bruises on skin and deeper scars on spirits, a ritual as predictable as the Lagos traffic jams. But then, in a moment that would shatter the fragile, oppressive peace of the household like a clay pot dropped on concrete, a slender hand shot out from the shadows and gripped Ebele's wrist with unyielding strength, halting the descent mid-air. It belonged to Nneka Igwe, the new maid who had arrived just days earlier from a dusty village in Enugu State, her simple wrapper and blouse a stark contrast to the opulence around her. Her eyes, dark and steady as the Niger River at midnight under a full moon, locked onto Ebele's shocked gaze with a quiet defiance that spoke volumes without a single word. Gasps rippled through the room like whispers in a crowded village square during a storytelling session. "How dare you?" Ebele snarled, her voice echoing off the marble floors imported from Italy, her Abuja accent sharpened by rage. But Nneka didn't flinch or release her hold. She held firm, her grip a silent declaration that enough was enough, that the winds of change had finally blown through these gilded walls. If this opening has you on the edge of your seat, wondering what secrets will unravel next, hit that like button right now and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories inspired by the heart of Africa. Tales of bravery, betrayal, and redemption that will keep you coming back for more. Unseen in the shadowed corridor adjacent to the hall, returning from a quiet moment of reflection in his private study, where he often pondered his next philanthropic venture, stood Chinedu Eze, the billionaire himself. At 35, Chinedu was the epitome of the self-made African success story. Tall and broad-shouldered like a baobab tree standing sentinel over the savannah, with skin the rich color of fertile cocoa soil and eyes that sparkled with the kindness of someone who remembered his roots in the slums of Ajegunle. Owner of Ezetech, an empire built on innovative mobile apps that connected small-scale farmers in remote Nigerian villages to global markets, allowing them to sell yams, cassava, and plantains at fair prices without middlemen, Chinedu was known across Lagos and indeed much of West Africa for his humility and generosity. He had donated millions of naira to orphanages, built schools in underserved communities, and funded scholarships for bright young minds from backgrounds like his own, earning him the affectionate nickname Ogun Diocha, the boss with a white heart, pure and untainted by the corruption that plagued many in his circles. Chinedu paused in the doorway, his smartphone forgotten in his hand, mid-scroll through emails about a new app update, his heart pounding like the rhythmic beat of djembe drums at a traditional festival. He witnessed the scene unfold before him, his fiancée, the woman he believed to be his perfect match, a beacon of elegance and shared values, struggling futilely against a maid's unyielding hold, her face contorted in embarrassment and fury. In that instant, a seed of doubt sprouted in his soul, watered by the gasps of the staff and the unshakable calm in Nneka's eyes. But before the storm could break fully, before words could be exchanged that might topple the carefully constructed facade of his life, another figure emerged from the adjoining room, a woman whose unexpected presence would unravel secrets buried deeper than the roots of an ancient iroko tree, secrets that had festered like an untreated wound. Yet to truly understand this pivotal, life-altering moment, we must journey back to where it all began, 3 weeks prior, in the heart of a city pulsing with the relentless energy of life, ambition, and hidden shadows. Lagos was a beast of a city, a living, breathing entity alive with the chaotic symphony of Danfo buses honking through gridlocked streets, the sizzle of suya vendors grilling spicy meat on roadside coals under the harsh equatorial sun, and the endless hustle of traders haggling in the labyrinthine aisles of Balagan Market over bolts of vibrant Ankara fabric and imported electronics. It was a place where fortunes were made and lost in the blink of an eye, where the ultra-rich soared in glass skyscrapers on Victoria Island, while the poor scraped by in the teeming shanties of Makoko. Chinedu Eze was one of its quiet kings, a man who had clawed his way up from the muddy alleys of Ajegunle through sheer grit, late-night coding sessions in cybercafes, and an unquenchable genius for technology. His Eze Tech apps hadn't just revolutionized agriculture, they had empowered thousands, turning subsistence farmers into entrepreneurs who could track market prices via SMS and negotiate deals from their mud brick homes. For 2 years, Chinedu had been engaged to Ebele Okonkwo, a stunning socialite from a prominent political family in Abuja. Ebele was the epitome of high society elegance, long, intricately braided hair cascading like midnight waterfalls down her back, curves that turned heads at every red carpet gala or exclusive yacht party on the Lagos Lagoon, and a smile that could charm even the most jaded devil. To the outside world, through glossy magazine spreads, innovation, and social media posts with hashtags like Power Couple Goals, she was the perfect partner. Philanthropic in public, poised at charity balls where she auctioned off designer bags for causes like women's education, and passionately in love with Chinedu, often seen whispering sweet nothings in his ear at events. She spoke of their future with glowing eyes, a grand wedding at the Echo Hotel, children raised in luxury but with values, and joint ventures to expand Eze Tech into healthcare tech for rural clinics. Yet within the fortified walls of the Eze mansion, a palatial estate with manicured gardens blooming with hibiscus and frangipani, an infinity pool overlooking the Atlantic, and security gates guarded by stern men in black suits, Ebele ruled like a tyrant queen straight out of the dramatic Nollywood films that played on every street corner TV. She barked orders at the staff with a voice as sharp as a machete slicing through ripe plantains during harvest season. "You idiots, can't you do anything right?" she'd scream, her Abuja accent laced with condescension, slapping a cleaner for a speck of dust on the antique wooden carvings imported from Benin, or berating a cook for oversalting the egusi soup, even if it was seasoned to perfection. The workers endured it all. The slaps that left red welts blooming like harmattan rashes on their cheeks, the insults that stung deeper than a scorpion's venom, the constant threats of dismissal that hung over them like a perpetual rain cloud. They stayed because the pay was life-changing, enough to send remittances back to villages where families waited hungrily for school fees, medical bills, or roofing materials to fix leaky thatch huts. Chinedu, buried in endless board meetings with investors from Dubai and Silicon Valley, late-night strategy sessions for app launches, and charity events where he rubbed shoulders with governors and celebrities, never saw this dark side of Ebele. Around him, Ebele transformed like a shapeshifter from Yoruba folklore, soft laughter tinkling like wind chimes in the morning, tender touches on his arm during dinners of pounded yam and okra soup, whispers of forever that made his heart swell. She was a master chameleon, blending seamlessly into the light he cast, hiding her shadows in the corners he never ventured. But whispers circulated among the staff, passed in hushed tones during breaks in the servants' quarters, a modest annex behind the main house that smelled of palm oil frying and freshly laundered uniforms. Rumors of Ebele's secrets, a lavish lifestyle funded by more than her family's oil-bearing wealth. Hints of shady dealings in Abuja politics, where her father, a former senator, had connections that skirted the law, and vague tales of past scandals buried under layers of bribes and NDAs. No one dared speak openly for fear of Ebele's wrath or losing their jobs, until the day the head housekeeper, Auntie Ifeoma, a matronly woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense demeanor and a jelly always tied impeccably, assembled the staff in that very quarters. The room was cramped with wooden benches and a single fan whirring lazily against the humid air, stirring scents of jollof rice leftovers from lunch. "Listen up, everyone," Auntie Ifeoma announced, her voice steady but etched with the weariness of someone who had mediated too many crises. "We have a new maid starting today. Her name is Nneka Igwe. Be kind to her, eh? Show her the ropes, help her settle in." The workers exchanged knowing glances, murmuring under their breath like leaves rustling in a gentle breeze. Another one? Poor girl, she won't last a week. Ebele had chased away 5 maids in the past year alone, each one broken by the constant abuse or fired on a whim. But when Nneka entered the room, carrying a small nylon bag bulging with her meager belongings, a few changes of clothes, a worn Bible from her village church, and a photo of her family, she carried an aura that set her apart. She was young, perhaps 22, with smooth ebony skin glowing like polished onyx, cornrows neatly braided in a simple style that spoke of practicality over vanity, and eyes that held the quiet wisdom of someone who had seen hardship up close. From a small Igbo village in Enugu, where coal mines scarred the landscape and farming was a battle against erratic rains, Nneka had come to Lagos after a devastating farm accident left her father bedridden and her younger siblings on the brink of dropping out of school. "I need this job," she had told Auntie Ifeoma during her interview, her voice soft but resolute. "I'll work hard. I won't cause trouble." The staff warmed to her quickly, drawn to her gentle smile and willingness to help. During her first day, as they folded crisp linen scented with lavender detergent, one maid named Chioma, a lively Yoruba woman with a laugh like bubbling brook, leaned in close. "Sister, stay out of Madame Ebele's way, oh," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder as if Ebele might appear from thin air. "If she raises her hand to slap, just bow your head and apologize, even if you're right. It's how we survive here. Don't argue, don't look her in the eye when she's angry." Another worker, a driver named Bode, nodded solemnly. "And watch out for her moods after she argues with Oga Chinedu. That's when she's worst." Nneka nodded politely, folding a sheet with precise movements honed from years of household chores in her village. But inside, a fire burned steadily, fueled by the stories her grandmother had told her around the evening fire. Tales of Anansi the spider outwitting lions, or of brave women like Queen Amina who stood tall against oppressors. "I won't let anyone treat me like dirt, no matter how rich they are," she thought to herself. Still, she kept silent, focusing on her duties, scrubbing the marble floors until they gleamed like the surface of a calm lagoon, preparing jollof rice with the perfect balance of tomatoes, peppers, and spices that even the cooks admired, and avoiding Ebele's radar as much as possible. She observed quietly, noting the fear in the staff's eyes, the way they flinched at Ebele's approach, and the subtle signs of deeper unrest, like the locked drawers in Ebele's dressing room that she was forbidden to touch. For 2 days, an uneasy peace held in the mansion. Nneka worked from dawn, when the first call to prayer echoed from distant mosques, to dusk, when the city lights twinkled like distant stars. She overheard more whispers among the staff during stolen moments, tales of Ebele's extravagant shopping sprees in Dubai, funded by unexplained gifts from her father's political allies, rumors of a hidden safe in her suite containing documents that could ruin lives, and vague mentions of a tragedy from her past in Abuja, something involving a young woman who disappeared after crossing Ebele. Nneka filed it all away, paying them no immediate mind, focused on sending her first paycheck home to buy medicine for her father. But the village gossip her cousin had shared before she left Enugu nagged her. A cousin who had once worked briefly for Ebele's family and fled after witnessing too much. "Be careful, Nneka," her cousin had warned. "That woman has blood on her hands." Until the third day, when chaos erupted like a sudden harmattan dust storm sweeping across the Sahel, blinding and choking everything in its path. It started innocently enough, as these things often do. Ebele had misplaced her gold necklace, a priceless heirloom from her paternal grandmother, encrusted with emeralds that sparkled like fireflies in the night. The piece wasn't just jewelry, it was a symbol of her family's status, worn to high society events to flaunt their oil wealth from the Niger Delta. Panic quickly morphed into rage as she tore through her lavish bedroom suite, drawers flying open, clothes scattered like confetti after a festival. "Where is it? Who touched my things?" she bellowed, her voice carrying down the halls like a siren's wail. Workers scattered like frightened chickens in a marketplace, hearts racing as they pretended to be busying themselves with tasks. She stormed into the grand hall, her high heels clicking like gunfire on the imported tiles, her silk robe billowing behind her. "Thieves! All of you are thieves and liars!" She cornered a young gardener named Emka in the hallway, shoving him roughly against the wall, his pruning shears clattering to the floor. Did you steal it to sell in the market?" Emka, a lanky boy from Ogun State, barely out of his teens, shook his head vigorously, trembling like a leaf in the wind. "No, madame, I swear by my mother's brave." Not satisfied, Ebele slapped him hard across the face, the sound echoing through the mansion like a thunderclap, leaving a red imprint that would bruise by evening. Then her predatory eyes fell on Nneka, who was quietly dusting an ornate vase from the Edo kingdom, its bronze surface depicting ancient warriors. "You, new girl, come here now," Ebele commanded, pointing a finger adorned with a ruby ring. Nneka approached cautiously, her apron still dusted with flour from helping in the kitchen earlier, where she had kneaded dough for Akara fritters. She kept her head slightly lowered, but her steps were steady. "Yes, ma," she said softly, her Igbo accent warm and melodic. Ebele's face contorted into a mask of fury, veins pulsing in her neck. "You look sneaky, like all these village girls who come to the city to steal. Did you take my necklace? Answer me." "No, ma, I swear by my ancestors and the spirits of the land I didn't touch it," Nneka replied, her voice even, meeting Ebele's gaze for just a moment. "Liar, you dare look at me like that?" Ebele's hand flew up in a blur of Mia, aiming for Nneka's cheek with the force of pent-up frustration. The staff averted their eyes, accustomed to the ritual of violence, whispering prayers under their breath for it to end quickly. But Nneka's reflexes, sharpened from years of dodging playful village bullies or evading falling branches during stormy seasons, kicked in instinctively. Her hand shot up like a striking cobra, catching Ebele's wrist mid-air and holding it steady with a grip forged from carrying water buckets over long distances. The room gasped collectively, the sound hanging in the air like smoke from a bushfire. Ebele struggled, her face flushing crimson with shock and humiliation, her free hand clawing futilely against her grip. "Let go! How dare you touch me? I'll have you arrested!" Nneka's voice remained calm, laced with the quiet steel of resolve. "Hitting people won't find your necklace, ma. Respect goes both ways, like the river that flows to meet the sea." The standoff held for what felt like an eternity, tension thick as ogbono soup simmering on a wood fire. The staff watched in stunned silence, some covering their mouths, others exchanging wide-eyed glances. From the corridor, Chinedu observed it all, his mind racing. Who was this new maid with such courage? And why had Ebele's mask slipped so dramatically? But then, breaking the impasse, a voice boomed from the entrance hall, rich and authoritative, like a village elder calling a meeting. "What in the name of the gods and our ancestors is going on here?" Everyone turned, heart skipping beats. Standing there, arms crossed over her ample bosom, was Auntie Oluchi, Ebele's childhood nanny from their family estate in Abuja. A stout woman in her 60s, with graying hair wrapped in a colorful gele that matched her flowing buba blouse. Auntie Oluchi had raised Ebele like her own daughter, teaching her everything from table manners to the importance of proverbs in daily wisdom. She wasn't supposed to visit today. She had arrived unannounced, driven by a nagging intuition that something was amiss, perhaps stirred by old dreams of unrest. Ebele's grip slackened in shock, and Ineka released her wrist, stepping back respectfully. "Auntie, what are you doing here?" Ebele stammered, her arrogance crumbling like dry fufu under pressure, her voice suddenly small and childlike. Auntie Oluchi's eyes narrowed, scanning the room with the sharpness of a hawk spotting prey. "I came to check on you, my child, as I always do. But I walk in to find you acting like a wild animal in the bush, lording over these poor people like you're some untouchable goddess from the old myth." She glanced at Ineka, noting the young woman's composed demeanor, then back at Ebele with a mix of disappointment and sorrow. "And you," she said, turning to Chinedu, who finally stepped fully into view, his presence commanding respect. "You must be the famous Oga Chinedu Eze, the man who's captured my girl's heart. But do you truly know what kind of viper you're about to marry and bring into your home?" Chinedu's brow furrowed, confusion mingling with a growing unease. "Auntie, please, let's talk calmly in the sitting room. No need for drama." But Auntie Oluchi shook her head firmly, her jowls quivering with emotion. "Calm? I've kept silent on her secrets for too long, out of love and loyalty to her family. But seeing this, it's time the truth comes out, like the sun piercing through morning fog." The staff murmured softly, sensing a revelation that could upend everything. Ebele paled, her hands trembling as she clutched her robe. "Auntie, no! Please, not here! Not in front of them!" Auntie Oluchi ignored her plea, her voice dropping to a grave tone. "This girl," she said, pointing a gnarled finger at Ebele, "wasn't always like this. As a child, she was sweet, full of laughter like a stream after rain, but power and money twisted her soul, like vines choking a young tree. Back in Abuja, when she was just 18, fresh out of secondary school and working at her father's company to learn the business, there was a young secretary named Ada, sweet girl from a poor Ghanaian immigrant family, hard-working, sending every kobo home for her mother's diabetes medicine." Chinedu stepped closer, his curiosity piqued despite the dread building in his chest. "What happened, Auntie?" Auntie Oluchi's voice dropped even lower, heavy with regret. Ebele accused Ada of stealing important documents, files about shady deals her father was involved in, oil contracts with kickbacks that could have landed him in EFCC custody. It was a lie, of course. Ebele had misplaced them herself during one of her careless moments, but she humiliated Ada in front of the entire office, shouted at her, called her a thieving foreigner, and slapped her repeatedly until the poor girl's face was swollen. The room seemed to spin for Chinedu, the chandelier's light suddenly too bright. And then Ada ran out in tears, distraught and shamed. She dashed across the busy Wuse road without looking. A speeding Okada motorcycle hit her. She died instantly, right there on the asphalt, her blood mixing with the dust. Gasps filled the hall anew. Ebele collapsed into the nearby velvet armchair, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. "It was an accident. I didn't mean for her to die. I was young, scared." But you meant to hurt her, to break her spirit, Auntie Oluchi pressed on, unrelenting. Your father covered it up, paid off the family with hush money, threatened witnesses. But Ada's brother, Kofi Mensah, never forgave. He's been searching for justice ever since, moving from Ghana to Nigeria, gathering evidence quietly, like a hunter tracking a lion. As if summoned by the very utterance of his name, the mansion's doorbell rang, an insistent, ominous chime that cut through the thick air like a knife. The butler, an elderly man named Mr. Adebayo, hurried to answer, his face pale. Moments later, he returned, escorting a tall man with scarred hands from manual labor and fire burning in his dark eyes. He was dressed in simple jeans and a faded shirt, but his posture screamed determination. "I'm Kofi Mensah," he announced, his Ghanaian accent thick with emotion. "Ada's brother. I've waited years for this day." Ebele screamed, backing away toward the wall, as if seeing a ghost from the ancestral realm. "No, Chinedu, protect me. He's here to kill me." Chinedu held up a hand, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Let him speak. We're all listening now." Kofi glared at Ebele, his jaw clenched. "You destroyed my family. My sister was innocent, just trying to survive in this harsh world. She was sending money home for our mother's treatments. You accused her to hide your own theft, skimming from your father's accounts to fund your parties and designer clothes." Ebele shook her head violently. "Lies, all lies." But Kofi pulled out a faded envelope from his pocket, its edges worn from years of handling. "Proof. Bank records I got from a whistleblower in your father's old office, emails showing you transferring funds illegally, and witness statements from that day." Chinedu's world shattered like glass underfoot. He turned to Ebele, his voice barely above a whisper. "Ebele, is this why you pursued me so aggressively? For my money? For Ezetech?" She sobbed, falling to her knees on the cold marble. "No, I love you, Chinedu, but yes, I was scared. My family's wealth is crumbling, debts from bad investments. I saw you as security." Auntie Oluchi sighed deeply, her shoulders sagging. "Child, tell the whole truth. The engagement ring, it's not just love. You planned to marry him and take control of Ezetech, forge documents to siphon funds for your own schemes." Ineka, who had remained silent in the background, absorbing every word, finally stepped forward. Her voice was soft but clear. "I knew," she said. All eyes turned to her in astonishment. "In my village, stories travel like the wind through the hills. My cousin worked for Ebele's family years ago. She told me about Ada, about the cover-up. When I heard of this job, I took it to watch, to protect if needed. And while cleaning, I found emails on Madam's laptop, plans to alter Chinedu's will after the wedding, to divert company assets to her own schemes." Ebele lunged at Ineka with a feral cry, but Kofi restrained her gently, his strength tempered by years of restrained anger. "Enough. The police are outside. I called them on my way here. It's over, Ebele." As officers entered the mansion, their boots thudding authoritatively, summoned by Kofi's evidence and determination, Ebele broke down completely, her sobs echoing like a mournful dirge. "Chinedu, forgive me. I was scared of being poor again, of losing everything like my family did." Chinedu knelt beside her, his eyes filled with a mix of pain and pity. "Forgiveness comes with change, Ebele. Face your past, make amends. Maybe then you can heal and rebuild." She was led away in handcuffs, her cries fading as the police van drove off into the Lagos night. The mansion felt lighter instantly, as if a dark, oppressive cloud had lifted, allowing the stars to shine through. Auntie Oluchi hugged Chinedu tightly. "You deserve better, my son, a woman with a heart as pure as yours." Kofi shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for listening. Justice for Ada. At last, my family can find peace now." In the weeks that followed, Chinedu threw himself into his work with renewed purpose, establishing a foundation in Ada's name to support abused workers across Nigeria, providing legal aid and safe havens. Nneka, recognized for her bravery, rose from maid to household manager, her quiet leadership inspiring the staff to speak up and foster a culture of respect. Auntie Oluchi visited often, sharing wisdom and proverbs that healed old wounds. And though scars from the betrayal remained, the mansion transformed into a true home of kindness and equity, proving that secrets, no matter how deeply buried, cannot hide forever from the light of truth. As the sun set over Lagos once more, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and gold like a master's canvas, Chinedu stood on the balcony with Nneka by his side. "You changed everything," he said softly, "not just by stopping a slap, but by igniting courage in us all." Nneka smiled shyly, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. "Anyone can stand up, sir. It just takes one spark to light the fire." And in that moment, amidst the hum of the city below, hope bloomed anew. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories from the heart of Africa.